What's up, guys? We're going to be checking out a new song that I'm currently making. It's going to be coming out in March with D&B Active Records. So at the moment, it was sort of a project file from my remix of Exodia by Montel 2099. I did for the remix comp. It was a little bit different back then. Didn't end up placing, so I've just sort of changed around now. We're going to get a new vocalist. But the main thing I wanted to run into today was these chords here. So if I play them. So it's these ones here, and I just wanted to go into how I made them. There's a shitload of processing involved, but we won't get too much into the processing. We're more just gonna look at sort of the layering and how I get this full sound. So the first thing we have is a layered sub. So you're gonna see here. So this sub is it's got its fundamental down here. We're in F sharp 0, by the way. And what we have is quite a lot of distortion. You can see the harmonic, this first harmonic here, that is pretty prominent. And then we have quite a lot of mid-range coming through, as well as noise. So the way that I've done this is I've got the sub itself, which is just a serum patch. So I've got, again, playing the note at F sharp 0, sorry. And then I've just got a sine wave, just looking like that in the wavetable editor. And then I've got another sine wave where I haven't put it in bin 2, I've actually put it in bin 3. So we're missing out on the one in here, but I found sometimes, depending on the track and sort of how you want it to sound, having this fundamental in here, this first harmonic, sorry, not this fundamental, the first harmonic in here can actually cause a bit of shit. So sometimes you just want to have that second one rather, and you leave this gap here, and it actually can help make a nice clearness to the fundamental while still having that overtone that gives you that low mid presence. So you can see here that the sub is definitely leveled higher than that fundamental, but the fundamental, oh god, I keep calling this the fundamental, the harmonic. So the sub is definitely, the fundamental is higher than the harmonic, but there isn't a lot of discrepancy. It's not like the harmonic sitting down here. So we've got a prevalent first harmonic there, or second one, bin 3 if you're talking about in Sarah. And then when we move on to the second layer, this is just like a mid-bass layer. Now the way that I've done this is, if we go into the patch, I have the exact same wavetable here for A. Now for B, I've actually drawn in sort of this extended thing here. So I've got the bin 3, but it's a lot less prominent than I've drawn in every second one after that. And distorted these a little bit. And then I've also put a high pass filter on so that it's completely taking out the sub. So now we can layer this with the original, and I'll show you what that looks like on span. So we have this distorted high pass thing here, and then you layer that with the sub and that. And now they really nicely fit together because they're not clashing at all. And then the third one is just our noise layer. So the way that we do that is we have bright white on our noise oscillator. Again, just a sine wave on as your fundamental there. And then I've got a triangle wave actually here for the second one. I'm not too sure if that does too much. Not really. Warps it a little bit. But the main thing here is that I've got the filter only affecting the noise, because obviously noise is a full spectrum sound. So what happens here is that by filtering it up, I'm keeping the noise just in this little region here. And then, of course, you distort them together. And then I've done an EQ to actually remove that sub out, these wavetables out completely. So again, it's just the noise there. And then done a little bit of multiband compression and a little bit of reverb. So that's nice. And you would see that usually would be sitting up here. I've leveled that down quite a lot. And then you mix that with the mid bass, and then you mix that with the sub. So now we've got this really powerful, prominent sub, and this sets a good foundation for what we're going to be doing. So the next thing we have then is a like mid bass here. I'll show you what this looks like in span. So what this sound is it's the scary sustain, can't remember what that full name is. But the bass 07, or it's from the patches that I made in that initial sample pack, you'll see if you go down in the Patreon. And essentially it is a detuned sine wave, or BD sine, with another detuned BD sine, except this one has bin 2 and bin 6 activated. So we don't have our fundamental sitting like there. We've actually cleared out that in this one, and this is just sort of adding these like harmonics. Now what's happening is without that, we just have this like, we've driven the filter quite a lot here and put distortion and effects and stuff all on it, and a bit of reverb stuff there. Sorry, reverb filtering there, not actual reverb. But what this is this is just like a distorted sub. So we've actually added in the tonality with this second wavetable here. Right? And again, that's just 3 sine waves. You've just got our fundamental, then we've got bin 2 and then bin 6 in here. It's just 3 sine waves that are getting driven into that filter, distorted together, and then I've got some hyperdimension, a bit of multiband compression, and just fucking up the texture a little bit with this reverb filter. Outside of that, I've just got a fat rack on here. So that's just distorting the hell out of it. I'm high passing it because I don't want the sub coming out. Got my cube rack just for, you know, general sort of whether I want to filter it up or down depending on whether it is in the track. Then I've got some more distortion with this gain reduction plugin here. And a little bit of soothe to clean it up. Just to get those like 2 to 4K, that 3K region there down. And then other than that, yeah, really nothing else that's happening. It's just like, again, it's just 3 sine waves that are just being distorted and compressed together. And what this is doing is you'll see that this is sitting right here. So this stuff up here, I could filter that down if I wanted, but the main thing that I'm using this sound for is to create this mid-bass region. So now when I layer this with the sub, sub handles up until about 200, then this mid bass takes over from 200 and gets us to about 500 or 600. And then I add in these last 2 leads here. And they sit really up here, and that's how I'm getting the sound full spectrum. If I didn't have this sound out here, it's like that drive, that like low mid drive is just missing. So adding it back in. So getting up to these last 2 ones, they're essentially the same patch. So it's a saw wave being FM'd from a second saw wave that's 2 octaves and 4 semitones above. And the second one also has some detuning on it. So you can see I've got the warp, like the FM from B at about 49%, so about halfway there. There's no level coming out from this one here. Got no noise, no sub, no filtering, and then just a little bit of hyperdimension to detune it, like get it sounding a little bit less synthesized and more detuned and natural. And then just to bring those highs out, I've got the multiband compression here. And then I'm filtering out any lows with these EQs. Really simple there. So that one, that note is playing F sharp 3. So remember, the sub is playing F sharp 0, and this mid bass is also playing F sharp 0. But then the lead up here is 3 octaves above. It's F sharp 3. You'll then notice that I've got this ghost note here. That's just to show me where the other ones are. This patch up here, so that is duplicated from this one. It's the exact same patch, except I'm playing G sharp 3 and then A and G sharp. So this is sort of like what those notes would look like together, except these ghost notes here are being played in this separate one. Now the reason that I put these into a separate track is because I wanted to filter them a bit differently. So because this is playing the root note, I wanted the highs of this to really like shine and come through. And I wanted this one up here. I wanted this to be a bit more filtered down so that you get that tone from it, but it's not adding too many of the highs. You can also see I've just filtered down again at this 3K region here because that gets pretty hot. Well, the only other thing I've done to this, again, it's the same patch, is that I filtered off the highs again here. So you can see I'm filtering off the highs not only of this EQ, but also in the filter and serum. And then in here, looks like I've just added a bit of phaser, that trick I show you where you do 0 rate, depth, and frequency, and then you adjust the mix to get that guitar amp effect. And then not too much else. Yeah, I've got a bit of EQ to just bring up the highs, but then a bit of MG low to actually roll those off. So this filter, and this EQ are all rolling off the highs, which is why this sounds a lot more filtered than this one. But then you play them together. Now I want to show you what would happen if I turned off that EQ and this filter here. You can hear that there's a lot of clashing going in the highs, which is why I turned these on. Again, the highs are pretty hot, so then I added in this other EQ, which is taming that 3K region and rolling off after about 12K. And now you get this layered sound, this like chord, essentially, but it's sounding cohesive. It's not sounding like this, all this clashing of highs. It's sounding like one sound. You layer that with a sub. Put in that mid bass. Now some people might argue that this mid bass is a bit too hot. By that I mean like it's a bit too high. But personally I just like the way that it's sounding. And that's how you get a full spectrum sound. So I've got the sub, that strong fundamental, a bit of mid push from the sub and the noise and the highs. I've got that mid bass sitting here. And then in the higher order, like from your 600 plus area in your frequency spectrum, these chords really take over. And again, like I said, those two chords, they're pretty simple patches. It's just a saw being FM'd from another saw that's higher up. The main thing to note is that they aren't playing the same notes. These are F sharp 3 and then G sharp and A, which is what gets that bum bum bum. But your other two are down there. So that's like the 4 layers of that sound. So yeah, I just wanted to run into that because I know this like big sort of wall of sound that you guys hear me or hear in a lot of my songs. You've been requesting it. So I hope that's given a bit more insight to how I make that. And then on top of that, I've just got the drums. So yeah, cheers for listening. See you next video.